Hey, welcome to LongShots TV. I'm your host, the Rhino, and we are the game. Alongside us tonight is our MLB and NHL top handicapper, CJ the Razor. How you doing tonight, CJ?
Good. How you doing, Tony?
I'm doing awesome, man. Man, I can't wait to talk some baseball and hockey with you here. We've got a lot of good things going on. The playoffs are shaping up amazingly. And I guess we got Cleveland and Toronto playing tonight starting off here in just a few minutes, huh?
Yeah, I'm really excited about this game here. It's coming back to Canada, and I've got the game on actually. Just pretty as anxious as anybody else here.
Yeah, I bet. So we got Bauer going up against Stroman. What do you think we see out of that tonight?
This whole series it's got me stumped. Like it's real tough to get a read on what's going to happen, and I kind of expected things to be a little tight,
Hmm.
but I didn't think they were going to be that tight, and I'm not sure when it's about to blow up. So
Right.
this pitching matchup is just as unpredictable as the first two. You got Stroman that he's had his moments, where he's come out strong, and there's other times where not so much.
Right.
You got Trevor Bauer that throws three different fastballs and has five pitches altogether, and you just really have no idea how these guys are gonna execute. I mean, so far so good with them, but I mean, as the tensions get higher, the emotions get high. It's real tough to say what's actually going to happen. And
Right.
I know there's a lot of stuff going on off the field about, with Bautista's whole conspiracy thing. You got Canada getting all politically correct with the whole Indians logo and everything. I mean,
Right.
everything's just a mess outside the field. So it'd be interesting to see what happens here.
So tell us a little bit about the Bautista incident.
Well, I mean, as usual, like these guys are under the spotlight. They're asked a few questions, and he kind of hinted that the strike zone was kind of being unfair at certain times of the game that he thinks were crucial. And, he basically left it out there saying, I'm not going to elaborate on it. And, we all kind of know what he's thinking, though. It's just, he
One of
just
the
made it really
things that
vague.
you just don't do.
Exactly.
Well, so far I've noticed, it's just somebody that's watching baseball. These games have been uh, pretty much a pitcher's game. It's been really interesting to see, and we haven't really seen the bats like we've been accustomed to in past series. Do you think that continues, or is it, at some point do they open up?
I like to think that at some point it's going to open up here. I mean, generally, I do expect pitching to take over, especially as more and more pressure gets added to every at bat. Every time they step up to the plate, it just gets even higher pressure. But I think at some point, one of these pitchers are going to have to cave in because everyone so far has just been pitching lights out, and it's unbelievable. I mean, like
Yeah.
every single one of them it basically in this series, it's come down to like one or two mistakes, pretty much. Bullpens have been solid.
Yep.
Overall, starting pitching has been solid. Like I said, it's just a couple pitches maybe that has led to Cleveland getting the upper hand. But
Right.
at some point, I think that something's gonna happen. I just don't know when. Like what one of these guys are gonna give it up. But I have no idea who it's gonna be.
If you had to make a lean tonight, CJ, which way would you lean?
you know, in terms of betting, I'm the kind of guy that likes to, value is really important to me, and I feel like this is another coin flip game. So if you were to put a gun to my head, I would say Cleveland Indians for sure, just because you're getting a plus 150 of that kind of value, and I
Right.
don't think home advantage really holds any weight in at this point of the series. So
Right.
I would say the Cleveland Indians if you were to get me to pick something here.
All right. And then tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, we have Jake Arrieta going up against Rich Hill for the Dodgers. Cubs and Dodgers series. This is another great matchup. Boy, I can't tell you how badly I've been into this particular game, this particular series matchup because again, pitching has been phenomenal, bullpen's been phenomenal, and it's another series where those big bats just quite haven't been jumping out. They've been quieted pretty much. Uh, what's your take on this series?
Well, we've seen everything in the series so far. We're only 2 games in, and we've seen the clutch hitting, we've seen a grand slam, we've seen good pitching, we've seen Kershaw come out and probably have the best pitching outing of his postseason career.
Right.
And I mean, we've seen a lot of the pitchers do what they're supposed to. And I talked about this last week about Kenta Maeda kind of reaching his exhaustion level
Right.
of having pitched more games than he probably should have, and that's starting to show. And I mean, we've seen that too. So I think that's a very exciting series so far. I mean, there's a bit of everything. I mean, you got a clutch home run from Miguel Montero. I mean, like out of all guys you would expect, that's the kind of stuff that you see in the playoffs in baseball. Like the unsung heroes. Just it's been a great series so far, though, so to say.
Yeah, absolutely. I look forward to the rest of it. How do you see this playing out? I mean, Cleveland's up 2-0 coming in tonight. This is a must-win situation for Toronto, obviously, and then we have um, the it's tied up. Chicago, LA is tied up 1-1. Correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's. I just want to make sure I had that right. So Cleveland and Toronto are just now getting underway, and what do you think happens from here, CJ? I mean, are we gonna see, are we gonna see a Cleveland Chicago World Series, or is it still just too tough to call at this point?
At this point, I do want to stick to my original prediction of having Chicago and Cleveland meet in the finals. And so far, it's looking good in this Cleveland series.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter what happens this game, I mean, they still have the upper hand. They still have the home advantage. But it's going to come down to Stroman today. I mean, he's a bit of a weird pitcher in my opinion. Like he's been clutch, and there's times where he hasn't, and there's not really any telling which Stroman we're going to see. I mean, he's already put a guy on base here,
Right.
lead off batter here. So
Oh man.
this might be. I don't want to jump to conclusions yet, but it's all going to depend on him and Bauer. With this little accident that he had, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how he comes out too. So
Right.
I think this series, I think it's still in Cleveland's favor, regardless of what happens here tonight, because they are going to have to face Kluber again tomorrow, and that's never going to be easy when he's in his zone. So
Right. Yeah, he's been pitching lights out. Uh, do you see any surprises coming up here? I mean, do you see something potentially happening here that might surprise a lot of people?
I don't want to say it's a surprise, but we might see Clayton Kershaw used the same way that Bumgarner was used last year. I
Oh,
mean, outside of Kershaw, we've got Rich Hill that's on the strict pitch count,
right.
and I see they're monitoring him really closely. We got Kenta Maeda, which maybe just maybe they're going to figure it out that he's just not fit to pitch anymore this season. Other than that, you got a kid. You got Urias basically as the next guy up. So
Right.
I can see them trying to overwork Kershaw a little bit. How he's going to respond to it is for us to see, I guess. But that's one thing I can see happening. I mean, like I said, I don't know if that's going to be a surprise, but it's going to be something that it's a little unorthodox. It's something that we don't typically expect in the playoffs, but when it needs to be done, we see management at its finest, basically.
So now is that LA saying, "Boy, we're in a battle here. If we don't pull Kershaw out and use him a little bit, as you said, unorthodoxly, uh, that we may lose this series to Chicago."
I think that's exactly what it is. Like they need to give themselves the best chance to win, and they're after seeing that Kershaw, whose only question mark was how he pitches in the postseason,
Right.
and I think he kind of put that to rest in the last little bit here, at least temporarily. I can see them, kind of relying on him to give them the best chance to win the game because everything else at this point is a question mark. I mean, how the kid is going to handle the pressure, how the health of Maeda and the health of Rich Hill, especially. I mean, I think it's in the hands of Kershaw, to give him the best chance to win. And I mean, Kenley Jensen's been absolutely solid so far, and he's kind of reached a few heights that he's never been able to reach before in going such a high pitch count and being able to get these 2 inning saves. So,
Right.
we're gonna see some very strict management here.
Okay. Looking forward to it. Okay, we want to jump over to some hockey action. We've only got 4 games going tonight. Tomorrow night there is a full slate. Tonight we've got Colorado at Pittsburgh, San Jose at New York, Rangers and Ottawa at Detroit, and Boston at Winnipeg. All those games are underway. Colorado and Pittsburgh are currently 2-2. That's in the second period. San Jose, New York Rangers. Rangers are up 2-1 in the second. Ottawa, Detroit. In the first period, Detroit's up 2-0, which is kind of a surprise to me. Go Detroit Red Wings. And Boston, Winnipeg, nothing, just underway. So, what are you seeing here so far in this early NHL season, CJ? Is it starting off kind of how you hoped?
It's starting off exactly how I hoped because I'm doing pretty well myself. So
Yes, you
I
are.
can't complain about that. But I mean, the thing I notice a lot with the early seasons is that structure wise, teams aren't exactly where they want to be. We saw with Chicago, we saw an own goal with Chicago in the opening night, and I just feel like a lot of defenses they're not really in sync with one another, and that's why we're getting quite a few overs lately.
Right.
And I mean, there are a handful of teams that have that down to a pat right now, but I think the majority of the teams are still a little excited, trying to get out there, score goals. That's the main focus, and it's not so much about defensive structure just yet. But I mean, that's going to come in the weeks to as the weeks go on in the season.
Okay, well,
So
we have to talk about the young rookie from Toronto, the Maple Leafs, putting on a show here. Just came up and scored 2 goals in his first game and 1 in his second game. His last name escapes me right now, but you know who I'm talking about, CJ?
yeah, Austin Matthews. Actually,
Matthews,
he
yes,
scored 4 goals in his first game and
4 goals. I'm sorry.
he set a actual NHL record for the most goals scored by a rookie on their opening night.
Incredible.
So that was definitely the story of the week, and he's spectacular though. He's playing like he's a 27-year-old, and I know he got blanked in the last game, but I mean he's got a really bright future. That guy looks NHL ready more than anyone I've ever seen in their rookie season, and
Absolutely.
I think the Leafs, they got good things coming. I don't necessarily think it's going to be this year, but they have a lot to look forward to. They got a lot of young stars and they got a good coach.
Right.
And when, as time goes on, I think they're going to, if they can put less pressure on their team here, they're going to be able to succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. That was, yeah, it's amazing. That was the story all week, and I think the Leafs are going to be looking up from here on out. So that definitely gives them a boost. Uh, is there any surprise teams that have started off so far this year that you thought maybe wouldn't necessarily get off to a fast start?
It's really early to say considering most teams have only played a couple of games, but if anything stands out to me, it'd be the Chicago Blackhawks losing their first 2 games of the season.
Right.
I mean, both games. The reason I'm saying this is because they're a pretty well structured team that has pretty much had the same core ever since their first Stanley Cup 6 years ago. I mean, the first Stanley Cup within their dynasty here, and it's more or less the same core. You would think they would come out with a little bit more structure and just a system that has one step ahead of everyone else. And going against division rivals for the first 3 games of the season, you would think that they kind of have the edge in that, but they really got run over by St. Louis, and then
Yeah.
came out against Nashville and still not having a step on them. So I think if I were to pick a big surprise so far this season, that would be it right there.
Okay. What about the Boston Bruins? They were a powerhouse last year. Do you see them being just as strong?
Boston, I think they might be on the decline a little bit here, but I do think that they're still going to be contenders in the East. Brad Marchand is kind of taking on a new role here to, he all of a sudden now he's the go-to guy for offense. Like he started off his career kind of as an instigator, the kind of guy that just gets under the skin of people and
Right.
draws penalties and throws you off your game. But now he's starting to realize he's an offensive threat. With nearly 40 goals last year. I mean that guy does have a scoring touch to him. And he started off the season with 5 points. He's tied for first in points in the NHL right now with Connor McDavid from the Oilers, and I think that team's just kind of taking on a new identity. Like some of the tough guys that we're seeing from the Stanley Cup run are either on the decline or not there anymore. And
Right.
Boston's kind of switched over to a more offensive game. A more skilled puck possession team, more so than just hit everything and just try to defend their way to wins.
Okay. What about the Flyers? Flyers were right up there this last year, and do you see them continuing the same, or just you know maybe they're on the decline as well?
I think they're gonna finish similar to how they did last year. They got a lot of kids that are on the rise. They got a nice little surprise by Shane Gottisberry last year, and this season they're 1-1. They started off their trip out west. They had a back to back to start things off. They won in LA, who's usually a slow team to start anyways, and then they lost in Phoenix in a pretty high octane game, which we did have the over in. But I think this team's gonna compete though because they started off the season with the suspension to Braden Shen, one of their top offensive guys.
Right.
They got a few new looks in the lineup. They got a couple guys that are injured, and I think when it's all said and done, they got a good system going on over there, and they'll continue to do well.
All right. And then the LA Kings out west last year, they were pretty strong up until the end there too. Are they going to be just as dominant this year?
It's I think sad to say because I am a fan of the way that LA plays, but I think that style is kind of going out of style. Like the whole defense physicality thing
Mm-hmm.
has kind of taken a back seat as we saw last year in the Stanley Cup Finals, and I think their Stanley Cup days might be over. Like they're still going to be a competitive team. They're still going to block a lot of shots, lay a lot of hits, and with Jonathan Quick out for a few months, I mean, this team might go through a bit of struggle here. I mean, they have Daryl Sutter. He's still coaching them. He's always coaching a team for a contender, but when it comes down to it, I think LA might be in a bit of trouble this year.
Okay. Do you what major trades or deals happened over the off season that you think could benefit any certain team at this point? I mean, was there some big moves?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some off the top of my head. There were a lot of them, but
One that
the
maybe
first thing
sticks
that
out in
comes
your
to mind,
mind that's
the
that's
one
really going to be helpful.
the one that really stands out to me was Thomas Vanek being on the Red Wings now.
Right.
I know Detroit. They're always a resilient team. They always make the playoffs. They always find ways to do well, no matter how low in the draft that they are,
Mm-hmm.
and they always find the right keys to fit in and fill in for guys that leave. And I know it's going to be tough with Nicholas Cronwall out, but they keep that European kind of theme on the team, and I think that kind of works well for them. Like they all get along with each other. They all know how to play with one another. The loss of Pavel Datsyuk's going to hurt them, but
Right.
I think Thomas Vanek stepping up in the wing there is just going to add another weapon to a team that's already very European minded, and he's going to fit right in this year.
Yeah. Great. All right. Always looking forward to my Red Wings doing well.
Yeah.
Gotta be the home here. So, as far, talking about from a standpoint of betting hockey, CJ, I know there's a lot of guys that don't bet hockey. What advice do you give to them as far as any types of strategies or what to look for when it comes to betting hockey? I know right now your record in hockey to start the season is what, 8-1?
To start the season, it's actually 7-3 to start the
Okay,
season. I'm
so
up about 8, close to 9 units on the season.
all right, 7-3 plus 9 units, which is an awesome start. Um, but if you're going to give them some advice on how to, go about betting hockey, what are some of the basics that they need to look for that'll help them out?
It's exactly that. It's the basics. And hockey, it's all about just it is what it is. What you see is what you kind of what you kind of lean is probably the right side. In hockey, it's not really like it's not a team. It's not a sport where you bet within the spread or and the totals are all pretty standard, 5 or 5.5. So you
Right.
just kind of have to work with that. And sometimes you can work with that to your advantage because some of them are just so obvious that like they don't budge from their totals, but you get a good you get a good jump on the line because of that. It's not like baseball where you can have anything from a total ranging from a 6 to a 13.5.
Right.
It's just 5 or 5.5. So there's just some games out there where you can expect 7, 8 goals, but the line's not going to be 6.5, just because that's the way hockey's been for as long as I can remember.
All
And
right.
basically, you just got to go with what you feel. If you like the puck line, if you like one team to win over another, that's all it is. It's not a lot of there's not a lot of things you can put on paper. Hockey's a very dynamic sport where one bounce can change everything, and you just kind of
Right.
have to you just kind of have to cap within what you see. It's not really like Vegas can throw you any curveballs, and apart from travel, like it's to me, it's just a sport where you
So
guess, but if you trust
keep it
your
simple.
intuition, keep it simple. Stick to your intuition, and that's how you do well in hockey.
All right. Well, sounds very simple, but unfortunately, that's why, you know, most people that bet hockey or any sport really lose. That's why Vegas is rich and we're not. and
Exactly. I mean, the more you know about the sport, the better, and that's why I did a lot of research this summer coming into the preseason, and I think that's why I've done as well as I have, just because I've been looking at patterns and just certain teams and their coaching styles. I mean, to me, coaching is really important. Coaching kind of determines what matchup works well against which team.
right.
And that's something I have studied and tried to focus on coming into this season.
Yeah. Obviously, it takes a lot of time and many hours to do that study preparation and work, even just finding where to find all that information. So it's definitely one of those situations. If you want to bet successfully. My biggest suggestion is to go out and get yourself a handicapper like CJ the Razor and follow him. He's got some great packages out there. You can find him on trendbetting.com. You can also reach CJ at CJ the Razor on Twitter. And you can talk to him, and he'll advise you and tell you what you need to do to become a winner in the NHL. All right. Hey, CJ, it's been a great time talking to you as always. We're going to do more of this stuff as the season goes along. Hopefully, we can do it every Monday night and talk a little, a little hockey and definitely baseball up through the World Series. Uh, like to have a show, maybe a couple times during that series in the evening, just a pregame rundown, if you will. Uh, Love to have you on for that if you can do it. Uh, Guys, that's been any parting thoughts or comments there, CJ?
Nope, that's about it. Yeah, I mean, it's the best time of the year for sports, and I'm just enjoying the ride right now, and I'm
Yeah.
just fully captivated with all the sports that's going on, and it's that time of the year where I'm just kind of I put all plans aside, and I'm just watching everything one after another.
All right. Yep. Everybody's digging in right now. It's the best time to get on a package at trendbetting.com. So I advise you guys to jump on over there, check it out, ask any questions you want. Also, come and join us every Friday night and at 9 p.m. for our primary show here on Twitch. We're also streaming via YouTube at the same time and various other channels. Jump in, ask questions. We would love to have your questions and your thoughts about games, about players, spreads, whatever your questions might be. We'll do our best to answer them right then and there. So thank you everybody for watching the show. Look forward to seeing you next time. We'll see you Friday night at 9 p.m. This is Tony the Rhino for LongShots TV. Take a shot with LongShots. We are the game.
Even get to cross.